So this is part 2 video for our staff meeting. I appreciate you taking time to listen to this and watch it. I want to share some additional information with you that was not shared in the previous video, but it's important information that I want you to be aware of. So I'm out here in Mrs. Crutch's room. She's not here, but I wanted to share some information with you about a couple areas in terms of AIG for our students, as well as remind you that we are in the window for parents to nominate students for single subject advancement. We are asking that you, if you get asked by parents about it, you share as much information as you can, but if you need additional information, please send parents to me or one of the admin team, and we can share information with them. So we want to make sure all parents have the opportunity to nominate their students if they feel like single subject advancement is something that would benefit those students. Again, it is single subject, so it has to be either math or ELA, and there are very specific guidelines that we have to follow. It is not just because they're making level 4, but there are certain testing requirements. But we will administer those, but the first step is for a parent to nominate their child for that. So be sure you are sending that information home and communicating that information with your parents about that. The other thing I would like to share with you about AIG specifically is I was asked to participate in a meeting yesterday. Spent some time talking to a reporter from the News and Observer, and along with Kathy Moore, who is Deputy Superintendent for Wake County Public Schools, and one of our members from the communications team. We were speaking with a reporter. He was doing research across the state and specifically including Wake County about the number of students who are scoring well on EOGs, 4s or now 5s, and yet these students are not students who receive AIG services. So our school, and this was something that he has seen across the state, there's a large number of students who are students of poverty who score well on the EOG but do not necessarily get identified as being AIG students. So I was asked to share some perceptions because our school had numbers that stood out to him as falling in that category. So I wanted to share some information with you about that so that you would be aware. Number one, if you see us in the newspaper, you would know about it, but also just to kind of give you some information about that whole conversation. There are some very specific gateways to AIG. We will share some more information with you later. In particular, today I just want to give you a little overview. But there are several different gateways that students can qualify for AIG services. It starts by giving everyone in 3rd grade the COGAT test. And then if they score 85 percentile or above, they're given the Iowa test. And then they have to meet certain benchmarks on those to be considered. There are other pathways as well. And the district this year started using EOG scores. If the students score a certain percentile in EOG score, again, we'll get into more the specifics. I just want to give you the big overview right now. So there are multiple pathways. Students can also be identified based on a portfolio of work, and the district is still kind of working through what that looks like, but that is another way students can be identified for AIG. So I just want to bring this to your attention today for 2 purposes. Number one, to let you know that one of the things we did this year, we had some teachers come and ask us about nominating students to be retested for AIG services, students who did not meet the benchmark in 3rd grade and now were in 4th or 5th grade, but seem to be doing very well. So we retested this year 22 students who had not been identified for AIG services. Of those 22, as of the day when I'm recording this, 8 of those students have met the benchmark that were retested. 8 of the 22 met the benchmarks and will be identified either as ELA or math as an AIG student. Then there are 8 more that we're waiting on to give another assessment because there's another pathway that they have opportunity for based on their assessments. 6 students outright did not qualify. So even if 3 of the 8 who are taking the second assessment qualify, then that means half of those students who were recommended to be tested will have met one of those pathways, one of those gateways. So that's a good piece of information. I was actually able to share that with the reporter and with Kathy Moore yesterday when we were discussing this. The other thing I just want to remind you of is make sure that that you are providing your students with level 4 opportunities, and that while you are differentiating your instruction and you are supporting those students who need extra support, and we want them to pass that EOG, and we want them to score that level 3 or 4, we want them to score level 4, we want to get them to that point. Don't forget as well to make sure that you're providing those opportunities for those students on the other end of the scale who may need additional support in terms of making that level 4 or accelerating above and beyond grade level work, and providing those opportunities and helping them as well. So that's something I just wanted to bring to your attention. Again, we will share more specifics about how students qualify for AIG and kind of get into the more details later. But if you have questions, see myself, see Ms. Crutch, and we'll be glad to answer those. So we'll share some additional information later time. So for this portion of the staff meeting, I brought you outside for a couple of reasons. One is I just wanted the ambiance of, because I'm going to talk to you about coaching, so I thought maybe being outdoors with a ball or something might be appropriate. But also it's really nice out today, and I just want to get outside a little bit. But I want to talk to you a little bit about coaching. So a coach's responsibility is to make their players better, and they rely on their expertise and their learning and share things perhaps they've seen other places or other players do. Not that the coach always has all the answers, but the coach is always searching and looking to find answers, and then share those things with their students or with their coachees, so that they get better with their players. So the reason I brought that up to you is because our admin team wants to support you and coach you in your PLTs. We want your PLTs to be the very best they can be. So starting with your next cycle, we want to do a coaching cycle where some admin team members over the next 4 weeks will be with your PLTs, not as participants, but just simply as observers. And before we actually engage and embark on this process, we're going to talk to you and say, what are some things your PLT does well? What are some things you would like some feedback on? And then we can take some time to observe those things that you want feedback on, and over the next few weeks watch how you operate in your PLT. And the whole purpose is not to be evaluative, but just to be, hey, I'm your coach here. Here's some things I think that can help you improve, and by the way, here's some things you do really well. So you're going to see us at your PLTs over the next few weeks, and we're going to be taking some notes. But we're going to at next week's PLT, next Thursday's PLT, we will spend time with you talking about what it is that you want us to support you in and work with you on. So we'll see you then. So one of the other things that I wanted to share with you, and it's an advantage that I have of being able to go into a lot of classrooms and see a lot of awesome things that's taking place across our school. And there is so much good taking place. It's just hard to capture all of it. But I have a couple, one upper grade and one lower grade example I want to share with you of some teachers helping students do exactly what we talked about earlier in the year: access grade level complex text regardless of their reading level, and helping them make meaning of that text and working with them, scaffolding the support as necessary. So one of the things that I just recently found out about was taking place here in 4th grade in Ms. Phillips' class. And I'm going to ask her to share very briefly with you a little bit about what her experience was with this. So Ms. Phillips?
Hi, I've been piloting some new curriculum that the county is thinking about purchasing, and the one that I've been working with, the text is very complex, and we are currently going over the suffrage movement and looking at the life of Susan B. Anthony. So they're taking literature and informational pieces and building background knowledge through those to talk about the whole theme of suffrage. So I've just been amazed because some of the students in my class are at a 200, 300, or 400 Lexile. Most of them fall in the below the 4th grade range, which is about a 700 to 800. So, for example, we were reading a speech about Susan B. Anthony, and that text was measured at a 1200 Lexile. And I was reading it to them, and prior to that, we've been looking at timelines based on the suffrage period, and also reading different scholastic articles about the whole Susan B. Anthony and her being on trial. And I was just amazed because I was reading the speech to her, which was Susan B. Anthony's speech, kind of defending herself and talking about women's suffrage. And as I was reading it out loud to them, I was just thinking to myself, there's no way that they're going to get this. It was such a high lexile level, and some of the words that they were using. And really, I was asking them to think about what was the main idea or what was the gist of the text. So I read it to them, and afterwards I asked them, so who can tell me what this speech was about? And I was amazed, and most of my students had their hands up, and they knew that this was about Susan B. Anthony, and she was defending herself on how, all about how she was arrested unfairly. So my students got it, and I was really amazed, especially at the ones who were at those really low lexile levels. I just saw the way, just building that background knowledge through different pieces of literature and informational text, they were really able to get it once we did it at a whole group, at a level that was totally higher than what they're at. So I've just been really impressed at what my students could do, and especially when we are building background knowledge, especially around a central theme.
So we've heard from Ms. Phillips in an upper grade example of how she's integrated complex text into helping her students and scaffolded support to help them make meaning out of that text. And another example, I was doing an observation the other day, and Ms. Vick in first grade happened to demonstrate an exemplar model of how to help your students access that grade level text and provide some support for them. So I want her to share with you now what she did and the results of that.
Okay, so in my reading groups, I have started to use a grade level text with almost all of my reading groups that is on level, and just differentiating my instruction to meet the needs of whatever group I'm meeting with. So as an example, this was a level I text that I read with a group on a level E. And we did that by taking an extended preview of the text, by picking out some really specific vocabulary, doing some really specific vocabulary activities, and chunking the text into very small portions and checking for their understanding as we went. The students were very successful at the end and had an understanding of the text, and were able to develop that through all the scaffolding provided. We did this over multiple days, and it did take a little bit of work, but they were able to read it and understand it. And I also found that my planning was much easier because I only took home one text, only picked out specific vocabulary instead of taking 4 different level text homes. So it was a great learning experience for my students. It really helped them to understand grade level text in a different way. So I encourage everybody to try at least just to see if you can do this with your own class and see if their students can meet those expectations.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you for participating in our virtual staff meeting. I hope that you find this is a good way to receive information, and I hope that it's been helpful to you. So thank you for your attention to these matters that we've discussed, and I just really appreciate all you do. Have a great day, everybody.